I was staring at my mom's Jeep Grand Cherokee window and I just started smacking myself in the face because I was like, you're so fucking ugly. What's wrong with you? That self-hatred kind of sounds weird saying this as a 36-year-old man, but putting myself back in this little kid's headspace of where he was at, like he just didn't know who the hell he was. When the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change, then change is finally possible. You know, rock bottom is wherever we decide to stop digging. I know I'm hard-headed and I had to get to some pretty low places for that willingness to change to happen in my own life. Ultimately, you have to come to that conclusion of where you want to stop is at, but if you're still breathing, there's still a chance.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Solutions podcast, where we interview people from all walks of life who've overcome the impossible. We shine light on one simple truth: no matter your past, no matter your pain, with the power of God, anything is possible. Today we have a very special guest. He has 4 solid years of sobriety. He's coming up on 5, but I'm just saying solid 4 for the AA people that might be judgmental. He's an author for the book called You Rule the Way. He's an entrepreneur and he's a fitness coach and he's jacked. I'll tell you that right now. He drove all the way up here to give us his time, to give us his testimony, and to give us some hope. So I want to introduce Matt Fleming.
And thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to share my story and my testimony with whoever's willing to listen and have me on their show. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I think that's what it's about, right? We get right so we can share our story to help other people get right.
Yeah, 100%. You know, make sense of all the BS, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, kind of give us like a little bit of your backstory of all the BS, the childhood, and like what kind of led you to your addiction.
Yeah, so my background, you know, I grew up in a less than ideal home. I don't like to paint the picture that I grew up in some super abusive household or anything like that, but it wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? There was abuse. And there was a lot of, you know, I lived with pretty much my mom and my 2 sisters growing up. My dad, you know, there was memories of him being abusive toward my mom at a very young age. You know,
so no brothers, right?
No,
so
no
2
brothers.
sisters, mom, abusive dad.
And they were 6 and 7 years older than me, so that came with its own challenges, right? Me being the annoying little brother. Yeah. You know, just little memories. I remember peeing in a cup for my dad when I was probably about 5 years old, not understanding why, just feeling really awkward and weird about it. Like, but then, you know, you grow up and you look back and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense now, you know. I also, one of my really close friends that I spent a lot of time at their house, looking back now, I could see that his parents were dealing with meth addiction, and my dad would come to pick me up and they would hang out in the trailer on the property. I'm like, and all these things start to click as you get older and go through your own BS. But you know, looking back to me at the time, I was like, oh cool, I get to play a little bit longer, right? And you know, my dad would always have a different girlfriend, my mom would catch him cheating, whatever it was. And when I was about 7 years old, I believe, I was in the car in front of my dad's new girlfriend's house, and him and my mom were arguing on the front lawn. And, you know, they were arguing about child support, how he was no longer going to pay for me anymore because I wasn't his real son. And then my mom gets in the car and, you know, she told me, I had tears in my eyes, and she looked back and I said, does this mean daddy's not my real daddy? And I think that had a big effect on me, you know what I mean, at a young age. And then also wondering, okay, well, who is my biological father?
Yeah, how do you process that at that age? Like, how do you even like fathom to
Humor was a big thing, and to this day, that's just who I am. I like to laugh. I think it's different now for a different reason, but I definitely still have a lot of those same characteristics as that little boy. I remember like joking with my sisters, calling them my half sisters, right? Like just anything to make that a funny situation made me feel okay. And then a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger as a kid, and I think if I were to ask my mom, I showed signs of anger even before I knew that. Even like as little as like 5 years old and things. So I don't know.
Were you like a violent kid, or were you more the kid of like, I'm either really happy or I'm really angry?
Yeah, it's kind of like the best of both worlds, I guess. And then, you know, as I got older, I found out my biological father was Middle Eastern, right?
Okay.
And so
what is he exactly?
He's Persian, so he's from Iran. Okay. And
my wife's Persian.
Yeah. So having the last name Fleming which is not.
Yeah.
My mom is white as can be, and my sister's dad, who I still call my dad to this day, doesn't look like me either. So I'm just going through all these identity issues of like, who the frick am I? You know what I mean? And then, people ask, like, I look much darker now and more of that ethnicity, but when I was a kid, it wasn't as much. But still, people ask, you know what I mean? And I don't even know what to say. And I feel so weird and ashamed, and like, I don't have an answer for them, right? And luckily, my sister's dad is half Mexican, so he's a little bit darker. So I guess I just kind of played things off like that. But I remember people, and even in high school, would ask me, and I'd be like, oh, I'm quarter Mexican, because that's what my sisters are. I would say things like that, and it just felt so weird and awkward and uncomfortable. And I realized now, looking back, that I hated myself, and I projected that hatred and anger onto a lot of other people. Like, my thing was, I'm going to hurt you before you have a chance to hurt me, because that's kind of how I felt. My dad would bounce around from girlfriend to girlfriend, and I think it made it even harder because we had a really good relationship too, but then he could also be this guy that would scare the shit out of me at the same time, so you never knew which one you were going to get. And it was, I think, had it been just one way or the other, it would have been a lot easier. Okay, I know to stay away type thing. But we had a lot of good memories. He really, he coached my basketball team when I was a kid, and took me to football practice, and was just really good to me. To be honest with you, better to me than my sisters. And those were his real daughters. And he had a son who I actually really don't know much about, but he abandoned him, before my mom. So that being said, I saw a lot of back and forth growing up. And then when I was in 8th grade, he met a woman who lived 4.5 hours away, and he kind of just upped and bounced. And I didn't play sports anymore after that. I got really heavily into skateboarding, which was always kind of a thing. Like, I had a cousin who was big into skateboarding who was older than me, and I kind of just threw myself into that because it was something I could do by myself without having to rely on anyone else. I would spend all my time at the skate park, and I absolutely loved it. And, spending all your time at the skate park, there comes other things. And
I feel like because I skateboarded my whole life. I opened up skate shops. I skated with pros, and I feel like skateboarding, it's such a cool community because it's like a bunch of outcasts coming together. Yeah. And like you said, it's like all I need is me and my board. 100%. And then you just go to the skate park and meet people. And like you said, that lifestyle brings things. Yeah. And nothing against the place saved my life as well. But there's also, you do see some things. There's all kinds of people that hang out at the skate park all the time. And you know how it goes. Certain skate brands are more focused on the party scene, like Baker, Death Wish. And it was cool. I saw it as cool. Yeah. How old are you? 34. So I'm 36. So Baker 3 was like huge, that was Antoine our era. Dixon, Ellington Greco, you know. Osiris the Storm, all those the classics, right? They don't make them like that anymore. The VX 1000s, if you know what I know. I was a filmer too, so I had the VX 1000, and then I remember I got the VX 2100, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we can't film with you." I'm like, "What do you mean it's the new one? It's not the same, like the 1000, that fisheye, and the classic, man, the classic, just that fisheye angle. You can't replicate that, but." Anyway, with that, I started experimenting. I wouldn't say that was from skateboarding. It was just growing up and kind of, falling in love with punk rock music, and then also having 2 older sisters, and, they listened to rap music and stuff. So I always wanted to be cool like them, and started experimenting. I was always scared of drugs, to be honest with you. But when I was about 14, I smoked weed for the first time, and right around that same time drank for the first time. And I remember the first time I drank, it was like, whoa, I feel comfortable with being me. This is awesome. I want to feel like this forever. I went from being this shy kid who was uncomfortable in his own skin to someone who could talk, probably a little bit too much, right? Now I'm being an idiot and I should be quiet, but it's interesting how for people that are watching this episode, when you're shy as a kid and the first time you drink alcohol, right? It's like it's literally like a spiritual awakening for us, right? It's like, whoa, I talked to her, I talked to him, that was fun. Yeah. Okay, and it's like, no wonder why we're like, okay, cool, so I need this. Yeah, I remember going to a party one time and just downing 7 shots of Smirnoff as quickly as I could. Looking back, I'm like, oh my God, why would you do something like that? Of course you did stupid shit. I should. There's been so many times where God's intervened in my life that, I can't even count. If someone were to ask me why I have so much faith, I would say, how much time do you have? Because I've got too many stories for this, And, just, one thing led to another, from
alcohol, start experimenting with cocaine. You do some lines. Ecstasy was really big when I was in, when I was 15 years old, popping e-pills. And it's like, at that time I felt so grown. And I look back at these pictures. My mom brought a bag of photos of recently of old Polaroids.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I was doing that at that age. I look like a baby.
Did you ever go to raves around that time?
I didn't go to raves.
Okay.
It was more of like we would just go to like the movies and pop ecstasy and watch whatever,
movie,
whatever we did, right?
Yeah.
Stupid shit. And from there, I think I tried meth around 17 for the first time.
How did that happen? Like, how did you get from doing that to getting in a situation where there was meth involved?
So I was born in Stockton, which is way northern California. I lived in a small town called Lodi. And my mom was dating someone. She was actually remarried to him at one point, and he had a son who was a couple years older than me. And at the time, my mom was a nurse at the prison, and his dad was a CO at the prison. And they would leave every night for night shifts, so that house would turn into a party house. And so one night, we'd always play poker, swim in the pool, do whatever. And, they were always smoking the pookie in the back in the garage. And one time they let me hit it, and they wouldn't let me. They were like
hesitant about it.
Not just that, but they would be the type that could do it and then not do it. Like once, so I didn't have access to it at this point. I remember the first time I did it, I hated the come down. Had I had more of it, I would have gladly done it until I did, wasn't able to. But it was for them. It was like, okay, put it away. Yeah. Mostly his friends would come over and we'd do it, and then they'd leave or whatever. And then my mom and his dad would come home at like 7 a.m, and we'd pretend that we were sleeping,
you guys are here? Yeah.
Doing that whole thing. And around that time, a little bit later, OxyContin comes into play. And by this time I was getting into a lot of trouble, nothing serious, but like enough to get arrested and go to juvie and, get an ankle monitor and be there for like 2 days, whatever it was, nothing crazy. But my mom was, had it up to here, and I was just hard to deal with. I put her through so much. And she's like, I need you to be closer to your dad. So at this point in time, I wasn't even going to school anymore. I was, just not, I had no chance of graduating, but I was pretending I was going, answering the phone, doing all that whole stuff. And so she packed us up and moved us down to Arroyo Grande, which is Central Coast, Pismo Beach area, which is where my dad was living. And actually, when I was in 8th grade, I tried to move down there with him, and I stayed for 1 year. And him and myself and my stepmom just did not get along. That didn't last. So as soon as school was over, I packed up, moved back up north, started getting in more trouble, and then she moved me down south again. And that worked for a while, actually, a little bit. I got my GED, I got a job. I moved, well, she kicked me out, but when I was right when I turned 18, I got my own apartment. I was working in a restaurant, and like it was, working. I was still drinking, but I was functioning, and got more into OxyContin, and things just progressed from there. And then I remember when OxyContin started going extinct, it was harder to find. And that first time I did heroin and realized, oh wow, this is much cheaper, same effect. And it just steadily progressed from there. And things just kept getting worse and worse. By the time I was 22, 23 years old, I was sticking a needle in my arm all day, every day, just to survive, strung out on meth and heroin.
Yeah, it's I always say when you get into those drugs like meth and heroin, it just takes away your soul. Yeah. Like the party scene's done, right? No one's going to the club or to the bar. So, let's go smoke some meth and shoot some heroin, right? And then we'll get bottle service and stuff like that. So that's at 22. You said at 22 now you're injecting, right? Meth and heroin.
And so like smoking before this, right? You start with the foil.
And it progresses to that.
Yeah. And it's so crazy to say those things to you, right? So nonchalant how we can talk about that. But to most people, it'd be like, oh, shit. And there was a time in my life where I would have had the same reaction. It's like you knock down that first door of the thing you swore you would never do, and it makes it that much easier to take that next step. No one grows up saying, I'm going to shoot meth. Yeah, no one thinks that, dude.
What do you think, what do you feel like you were missing, or what do you feel like was like the pain that impending doom that you were carrying with you that caused you to want to drink so much and get high and just kind of chase that lifestyle?
Just not knowing who I was, hating myself,
what did you hate about yourself? Yeah.
The thing I hated about myself the most, when I found out my real dad was Middle Eastern, right? And I didn't have any sort of identity. Right around that time, that was 9/11, right? That's when the Twin Towers and all these things, it started showing up on the news about like, I was like, that's me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought. Being this little kid and just having no idea who I was, and then having to deal with that. And I was like scared to tell people, you know, and not to mention there were racist things that you would hear, especially because they'd be said in front of me because no one knew, right? And like, I started calling myself certain names, like, you know, really racist things I started referring to myself as. And I remember one time when I was getting ready for school, this is like a very clear image in my head to this day. It's elementary school, and I was standing out in front of my mom's Jeep. I could tell you the address. It was 447 Columbia Drive. We lived right there on the corner. And I was staring at my mom's Jeep Grand Cherokee window, and I just started smacking myself in the face because I was like, you're so fucking ugly. You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, that self-hatred. And again, it kind of sounds weird saying this as a 36-year-old man, but putting myself back in this little kid's headspace of where he was at, like, he just didn't know who the hell he was. And it was an identity, you know, just didn't know who I was. And it was a hard time to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's difficult when you're young and you feel that discomfort within yourself, right? And there's you grow up in a dysfunctional home. Back then too, and during our time, there is no social media. There's not like we look on our phone and it's like trauma, childhood trauma, dysfunction, mental health, anxiety. You know, to us, we didn't know we had anxiety. We didn't know we had mental health problems. We didn't know we were all that. It was just kind of us, like you said, I feel like something's wrong with me. Yeah. And I feel like everybody around me has it figured out.
Dude, everyone had the blueprint for life except me. I wasn't given the manual, right?
How were you like in romantic relationships?
Horrible. Yeah. I felt so awkward and disconnected. I felt like no one could ever love me. No one could ever like me for who I truly am. So I can't show you that person. I got in so many fist fights growing up. You know what I mean? Like, I always had to be the tough guy. And I was not. I was this little skinny kid. You know what I mean?
Like, you didn't look like this?
No, not even close. You know, it's like, you know, I was this little skater kid. And I honestly, like, it's funny because my mom's side of the family is very white, right? And like, then I have this other issue or other side of the family that's not. And I was always drawn. I think that's what got me into tattoos, to be honest. Now that I think about, like, as an adult, I'm like, I was drawn to that. But I remember looking at my uncle's motorcycles, Harley Davidson magazines. I was like, I want, you know, that.
That would make me a man, right?
Yeah, that would make me feel better. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, like, most of my tattoos are because of that.
Yeah.
Because same thing, I became a punk rocker, skateboarder, bodybuilding, like all these things because I'm like, this will make me a man. Yeah. Tattoos, pierce, all of it. Like, you know, I still felt the same. But getting that validation, like, dude, you got a tattoo, you're not even 18 yet. Yeah. Yeah. You know, like stuff like that. You got your ears pierced already? Yeah. Plugs, yeah. The bigger, the more manlier you are. Yeah. And stuff like that. So at 22, when you start doing like heroin and you're injecting heroin and meth, like how bad does your life start getting from that point?
So at first at this point, I moved out of my mom's right when I turned 18. When I was, it's so hard to remember the exact ages, but early 20s, I wrecked my car and I was doing coke and I was working at a restaurant and I was like, I'm going to move into my dad's house to save some money. At this point, I'm an adult now. Myself and my stepmom get along. You know, we have a relationship. They let me move in. And so I ended up losing my job at that restaurant, but I'm selling dope at this point. And there's kind of oblivious, I think, or maybe, I don't know. They drink a lot, so who knows? Who knows how much my dad starts catching on, right? I'm coming home at 5, 6 in the morning, and he's leaving for work. Sometimes early. I'd get home at like 4, and he's getting up for work. And he asked me one time what I'm doing, and I was like, what do you think I'm doing? He's like, you know, selling drugs. And so we started doing coke together, right? So some days I'd come home, and we'd be doing lines of coke, but I would be coming into the house, and he's getting ready to go to his job. And then that progressed. I remember he fronted me money to re-up to when I was selling coke. And then he found out I was, you know, slinging meth. And he never liked the heroin stuff, but the meth we'd smoke together in the garage from time to time. And everything was cool. He knew what I was doing. She didn't. And then the first time I got arrested as an adult for drug, I don't remember, it was like possession. At this point in time, it was still a felony. And when they saw the charges, they were like, you can't live here. He acted like he didn't know anything. And, you know, it was her first time finding out. So got my car impounded. And that was the setup, right? I mean, if you've ever been on probation, you know how it is. If you don't get clean and sober and do the right thing, it's just a revolving door. And that's what county jail became to me. I remember when I first became homeless with no car, it was, you know what? The first time I did get arrested, I didn't get my car impounded yet because it was homeless with a car, right? And that was like that first door, right? That first line of something I swore I would never do. And then I remember getting arrested again and getting the car impounded. And now I'm like trying to adapt to living on the streets. I don't know. I still have friends that use. I'm still as well put together as you can be. I'm not pushing a cart, going and sneaking in the boat in their driveway and sleeping at night and like bouncing out before, they woke up and bouncing around from couch to couch and house to house. And yeah, all those times are just a blur, man. The years just go by so quick, so fast.
What do you feel like? And I think sometimes people are always shocked when they hear like stories when it's like, wait, they did drugs with their parents? Like, how can a parent do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird.
How do you feel like that kind of what do you feel like that did to your perception of like what a father-son relationship is?
I don't know. At this point, like I had they were popping pills and drinking. And so I don't know. I think I was kind of numb to it. It was really strange the first time. But yeah, I don't think at that point I really saw it as much of like a father-son relationship anyway. Yeah. From everything I had seen and all the things. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it wasn't as strange as you might think, which is kind of weird, but yeah.
So then what happens from there now that you're basically homeless, right? You're trying to figure that out. You're couch surfing, sleeping here, sleeping there.
Yeah.
Like what starts to happen after that?
So there was times like, I remember I had one friend who had an apartment and all of a sudden we all lived there, right? So there were stints of not being homeless. And then there's, a few months in county jail at the time. I've never been to prison, never done any serious time, but it was always like 6 months with half. And I would take Prop 36, right? And get out and just go on the run for as long as I possibly could. I had a girlfriend I was living with for a little bit. I had friends or girlfriends that I would, sleep in their car with them. I slept in my car. I would manage to get a vehicle. Like there's just so many things. I would manage to let my mom, convince my mom I'm doing halfway decent, show up at the house, and I would stay for a few days. So I was never like the riverbed living person. You know what I mean?
The person in the tent right there.
No, I didn't go that far. I didn't go. I mean, believe me, I've slept in my fair share of parks, but I refused to commit to the homeless lifestyle. I'm like, I'd rather tweak and walk around outside all night than go sleep in the riverbed. But it was, had I committed to that, that was the level it was at. It was just like I was too worried about people seeing me, so I always tried to either stay hidden or stay in my car, whatever I was able to manage to put together at the time.
Do you feel like you got to a point almost during that time, if you can remember, where it became almost comfortable to do that whole process of like, I get locked up for a little bit, I do this, I do that, I can stay at my mom in for 2 days, I'll say this, I got I got a girl now, and I can stay there for a bit, I'll say this and say that.
Yeah, as long as I had dope, I was good. That's all I needed to be okay.
Yeah.
As long as I wasn't going to be sick on the street, like we're good.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people, like that's the challenge. People don't realize sometimes, like, why do they keep on doing this? It's like, because once we find comfort in it, that could be a dangerous place for us.
Yeah.
Because once you find comfort in the consequences, it's hard for us to see it as a consequence. It's like, it's all good.
Yeah, those little stints of sobriety in county jail became my saving grace, right? That's what kept me from going over the edge, from getting because I would get to that point where I was just walking death, and then you go do a couple months, you do some push-ups while you're in there, you come out and you're good to go again. And like you said, people wonder why you keep going back. It's like, well, you get out with no job, no car, you're expected to go to X amount of classes a week, do all these things. I don't even have a ride. Only people I know are the ones that are using. Who's picking me up from jail if I have a ride, or where am I going right when I get out? It's right back. It's like I'd had so many times where I had every intention of like, this is the last time I'm getting high. And then you get closer to the gate, and then you heard that saying, gate at 8, spoon by noon, man. It's
I've heard that one. That's so funny.
These little sayings you pick up along the way, and it's so true. It's like, because my mind, I didn't have a foundation. I just was trying to white knuckle it, and you think while you're in jail, you're like, this sucks so bad, I never want to come back. And then they give you your regular clothes again. You're like, it wasn't that bad. We'll deal with this when it comes time to deal with it again.
Yeah, addiction's so. God, that's why I hate addiction so much. How our brains, like, we can literally go through the worst come down, the worst experience, the worst everything, right? Or physically feeling we're gonna die, or we get to the hospital, like something bad happens, right? They're physical, like, oh my gosh, my knee, I can't feel my foot. I swear it's the last time. And as soon as that is gone, that pain. Thank you so much, God.
Yeah.
And then again, it says in your head, hey, maybe next time we'll just do it like this. And it's like, whoa, I'm already thinking about getting high again.
Dude, it's crazy. I remember those times, like, you know, the last couple of days are the hardest when you're in jail. And then I remember hitting in the holding, like the dress out room, right? I'm waiting to get my clothes and I'm already starting to fiend. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, do I have dope in my pocket maybe? Is there something? How long is it going to take to get? Because I got to go to the bus stop. It's like all these things just start rushing through your head. Yeah, it's no place to be, man. I thank God every single day for that. I don't live like that anymore.
And at that point, did you know you have a problem? And are you having any type of exposure to like recovery language?
I mean, Prop 36 are you familiar with Prop 36? Mm-hmm. So Prop 36 is like an outpatient program. Basically, you get out, they give you a couple classes, you call every single day when your color gets called, you got to go to probation and test. That's it. You know, they tell you to go to meetings. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't know what a sponsor was. I would go to meetings just to get my court card signed. If I'd even go, maybe I'd sign it myself.
Is this kind of like drug court?
So it's the step before drug court. Okay. So it goes PC 1000, which is like the low grade, Prop 36, and then drug court, which I ended up going to drug court afterwards, which is much more strict, right? Yeah. Classes 5 nights a week, got to have a job, all these things. So, yeah, I bounced around. Prop 36, did so many violations, I ended up getting off of it like that instead of just maxing out my time. And then I got another charge. So this was like my first serious charge. I was dating this girl at the time, and she was she had a job. Like the only thing we really had in common was addiction, right? She was a good person, I was not. And so she would let me sneak in her house and sleep in her house at night, and you know, we'd live in her car together sometimes, and I would always drive her car and just do stupid shit. And one night I went out and I was taking her car around to go break into cars, and I broke into this car and stole a wallet and a bunch of tools and went, and I was so far gone at this point. I drove to a gas station like a Chevron that's all lit up and just right into the space and fill up the tank. I'm like, oh, it works. So I start swiping for more shit till it doesn't work anymore. And then it's probably like 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, I better bounce. And I had a feeling the cops got called, and sure enough, they did show up after I left, but I didn't know. So fast forward to a week later, she's at work. I have her car again, and I'm sitting in the parking lot of this place called Soto Field. It's a big sports complex, like softball fields and all that, and it's right around the corner from my mom's house. My sister's in town from Atlanta, and she really wants to see me, but my mom wants me nowhere near the house. And so I park at this place, and she's walking up around the corner, and right as she's walking up with I think he was probably about between 3 and 5 years old at the time, my nephew, guns are pointed to my head, cops surround me. So I have pictures of it actually in my book. If anyone ever wonders how I have photos of me getting arrested, it's from my sister snapping photos.
Like I always have somebody following the camera.
Yeah, I know. No one's ever asked me that, but I've always wondered, because there's a picture that I've posted on my social media and in my book where I'm getting arrested, and there's cops, you know, tearing the car apart. So I got arrested for fraud for the credit cards, and there were a bunch of stolen mail in the trunk, and you know how the whole get down goes. And after a few months of going back and forth to court, they offer me drug court. And I get out, and of course I go right back to doing the same thing. I do another violation, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. So they were going to impound her car that time, but they let my sister take it and my mom drive it to her. I'm like, dude, it's her car. Like, please don't do this. And they ended up actually being cool about it, the detectives and all the cops and whatever that arrested me. And then we're down in Pismo Beach, so this after I get out, and we're in a hotel room. It's like 2 in the morning, and of course I want to go drive her car for whatever reason. I don't know what I'm doing. I ended up going to a different hotel to start doing laundry or what. Yeah, I was at a Motel 6, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm getting arrested, and this time her car did get impounded, and I go to jail on another violation. She lost her car. She ended up losing her job. I ended up going to a rehab. They ultimately were going to give me 3 years, or, you know, they let me pick a treatment facility. I was going to go to just like Salvation Army for 6 months, but my side bunkie, who was actually a kid named Tyler Hilton, who's passed away since then, but he was telling me about this place called the Santa Barbara Rescue Mission and spoke so highly of it. And so I ended up going down there, and I was supposed to go straight from jail to the program, but because I had a warrant in Santa Barbara, they couldn't do it. Like, they had to pick me up, and then they released me and all that stuff. So the last time I spoke to Brittany was she came by my house and dropped off some of my stuff, and we screamed at each other on the front lawn. And this was a big life lesson for me, to never let the last conversation you be with anyone you care about be left in anger, because I ended up going down to the Santa Barbara Rescue Mission, and she passed away 17 days after I got there. So during the time that we dated for about 2 years, she had some health issues. Serious, I don't know all of it. She ended up passing away from pneumonia.
Oh, wow. So not an overdose. It was
no, but issues. It was, so like in the 2 years we dated, there were a couple, I think 2 different times I not caught her, but like found her. She's like, couldn't breathe. She had really bad breathing problems. She would take her shirt off and like she couldn't. And I took her to the ER 2 times, and she went to ICU both times. And I think that had to do with something that happened. She ended up dying in the ambulance on her way, because I would force her to go. I'd be like, we're going, no questions asked. But she was hanging out with some friends that didn't have as much pull or influence, I guess. And they finally did call the ambulance. And I believe she passed away in the back. And I was in treatment, and we weren't allowed cell phones or anything like that. We had a house phone with a blocked number, who we weren't supposed to have any contact with girls or anything like that unless you're married. But I would sneak on there every once in a while and try to call her, and I would get no answer. So I go to my first graduation. This program has graduations every 3 months. There's 4 a year, and it's, depending on when you get there, you graduate in different groups. So my 30th day there, 29th day there, I'm at the church where they always have them at local churches, and a guy I know sits in front of me, and we haven't seen in a while. He's from my hometown. I'm like, oh, cool, man. So glad you're, sober. He's at some different program. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry about Brittany. And like, it's settling down. Everything's about to start taking place. People are getting quiet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, she passed away. And I'm like, no, you got the wrong Brittany. And he told me, and I just started bawling, crying. And I walked out, I ran out of the church or whatever it was. And sure enough, I found out. So no one wanted to tell me, of course. But yeah, it was tough, man. I felt really guilty. I still, there's part of me today, you wonder what would have happened had different things taken place. Like I look at myself getting her car impounded, her losing her job was like this effect of different things that took place. And I've spoken to her mom. Her mom's really proud of me for all the things that I've been able to do and accomplish. And, there's just so many reasons to stay sober today, and that's just another one,
Because at that time when you found out, was that when your recovery journey started?
Yeah.
That you're in right now?
Yeah, so this was late 2016, I got arrested. February 2017, I went into the program. And I believe I got there, my dates might be a couple days off, but I believe I got there February 7th, and she passed away on I want to say the 27th or the 17th, one of the two. But it was very close. It was right after I got there. And then I found out, a couple weeks after that.
Yeah, what do you feel like that does? Just because I feel like, you hear stories in recovery where you get to make it right with the person, you ask for forgiveness, it works.
Yeah.
Both people have their own separate lives, everything's cool.
Yeah.
But then you have some like that, right, where it's like, man, like I have to like live with this thing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel like that affects your like decision making? What type of pain points does that kind of cause you to feel maybe throughout life as you're living your life?
I mean, today, just trying to live life to the fullest, right? Make the most of each day that I was blessed with, because I've seen so many people that don't get that opportunity, she being one of them. I've had lots of friends, acquaintances over the years that have died of heroin overdose or ended up in prison for a really long time or gone to prison and got killed in prison or whatever it is. There's just so many stories. Like, we should be statistics, right? We shouldn't be here right now, but for whatever reason, God spared us so many more times than once, speaking for myself, that I feel like anything of living life less than absolutely feeling blessed and thankful and showing gratitude through my actions every single day would be selfish.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Yeah, I think I remember I was at this event, and this one of the motivational speakers was like, there's certain pains that never leave you.
Yeah.
Right? It's the residue that reminds you of what it felt like so you can connect to other people.
Yeah.
But also, like you said, it makes you think twice about stuff. I know, like, my mom had cancer in my addiction. I didn't go to one single appointment, right? And she beat it that time. And I remember she got it again when I had 8 months sober. And at that time, I thought, like, oh, I'm going to make it right with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that moment. I was like, God, why are you doing this? Like, that's unfair. I have 8 months sober only. Like, I need more time. And God's like, well, now you get to show up.
Yeah.
You know, and luckily she did beat it again. But again, the lesson was to like, you know, like, okay,
yeah,
I got to do this right.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. So after you hear that news, how do you process that at that time? And how does your life look like right after that?
So after that, I remember for like the next, it was almost like I cried when I first found out, but it was almost like I'd be okay. And then just random waves of emotion would hit me and I would start crying again. And that happened, you know, for a good 2 days. I think I kind of just was like crying on and off. And then you just kind of go numb, you know, you're also in this less than ideal place. I'm in a all men's rehab facility and there's no phone and there's no one. And they had really good support there. I had grief recovery and, you know, all these things. And then right around that same time, right after that, my sister's boyfriend, my oldest sister, she was living in New Orleans, or she still does, Louisiana. And her and her boyfriend got in an argument and I don't know the whole story, but shoved her out of the truck. She got out of the truck, whatever it was, and he ran her over and punctured her lung, broke her pelvis, broke all kinds of ribs. And so, like, I'm getting this news on the phone from my mom. My mom's telling me she's fine. Come to find out later, after I was, you know, out of this place, she was almost not fine, but they were kind of downplaying the situation. But, you know, me being the little brother and just, you feel such anger. I'm like, oh,
it's my sister,
kill this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, but you can't do anything. I had no money. I had no resources. Like, what am I really going to do about it? But you feel all this built up rage and then you have all this shame and guilt and sadness from the other thing going on. It was a tough time. This was my first 30 days in recovery. Like,
that's a lot.
First 35 days or whatever it is. A few months go by. Things are going good. I'm doing the deal. You know, I've always had that faith instilled in me from a young age. My mom she's one of the most strong people I know. I've seen her walk through so many battles and just always give God the glory and praise. And, you know, when I was younger, I liked going to church when I was real little, but then pushed away from it. But I always believed in God. I always believed, you know, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Like, I will never deny that. But there were dark times in my life. But even in my darkest moments, when, you know, I'd hit those rough patches, I'd pray. I'd be praying, you know. But it's a faith-based program, so I'm like doing devotionals every morning, got into like journaling. This is when I got heavily into working out. I knew that there was a gym there and I went with every intention of like, well, I'm gonna get jacked, you know, that was the plan. So I lifted weights a lot there. The guy who ran the program, his name's LB, pretty jacked dude. Just would stay after work sometimes and work out with me. There was other guys that would show me the ropes, and I just thank God that I had that space to like learn that environment. And I fell in love with it, you know. About 4 months in, we all have jobs there. And one of the jobs is laundry. So this kid had a laundry job. And, you know, we take turns from different rooms dropping off our bags. And I come downstairs and he turned all my white laundry pink. And he's like, hey, I turned your laundry pink or whatever he said. And I was like, okay, you're not going to say anything. And I don't remember what he said, but I was like, that's because you know, fucking suck at your job. And he's like, wear your pink clothes then, you faggot. And so from there, things got heated. This is first thing in the morning, like 7:30, 8 a.m. And by 9 o'clock at night, we're signing out to go fight in the parking lot around the corner. So we ended up fighting. No one said anything. The next morning, I got called in the office. I got kicked out. You know, I was like, fighting? I didn't do drugs. I thought I would be okay, but apparently fighting is not okay. You know, they kicked me out. Went back home. It was a blessing in disguise as I look back. One of my friends overdosed on heroin, and I was able to go to his funeral right around the time that I got kicked out. Had I not been kicked out, I couldn't have gone. Was that God's way of letting me? Who knows? You know, there's so many different ways to look at it. Maybe it's just coincidence, whatever. But I went to his funeral, and then I relapsed right afterwards. I didn't want to go to a new program. My PO was like, you need to get into another program now, but she was also like 7 or 8 months pregnant. So I'm like, cool, this is going to be a little bit easier because so I only got kicked out for 30 days. So all this happened fairly quickly. I was pretty bad. I don't think I went back to heroin. I was doing just meth. And then Danny Carroll from the rescue mission, who was my counselor, was like, hey, we're going to let you back in. Can you pass a test? I'm like, no. He's like, well, you know, you got a couple days. It was like 4th of July. I remember I ended up in the hospital. I had cotton fever. I got out, kept getting high. And then he told me, I think on July 5th, that I could get back in, and I was supposed to be down there on Friday, July 7th. So I just stopped cold turkey right there, and it was miserable. You know, the calm down is like just so many things, right? You're just depressed, and my mom was letting me stay at the house. I was staying at their house the entire time I was kicked out, and I remember I was laying on the couch just dead, you know, just feeling like absolute shit. And my sister from Atlanta was in town again at this time, and they were getting ready to go to the beach, and they were inviting me, and I was like, nah, I'm not going. And right before they walked out the door, I said, all right, I'll go. And I have a picture of this too. I went and passed it on the beach. Right when we get there, a 10-minute drive down the road, about, you know, a whole bunch of cop cars are in the driveway. Probation's in my house. We have the Ring camera. My mom's on the phone, and they came looking for me. Like, had I not left, I would have went to prison, done my 3 years, you know. Another God shot moment.
Wow.
My mom drives back to the house, leaves me and my sister at the beach, and she's like, hey, you know, he's going back to Santa Barbara tomorrow. And they're like, well, we're going to be back here at 8 a.m. If he's not gone, he's going to jail, and that's what's going to happen. So the following morning, we drive down there. We're like an hour late, you know, behind schedule, whatever happens. LB, who is the director of the rescue mission, he, you know, makes the final say. He's out on leave because his new daughter was being born. We show up late by an hour. So I give you all these details to make the other things make sense. I take my drug test. They say, you failed. We can't let you in. Just at that moment, he came for 10 minutes and was like showing his new daughter, and he's like, let him stay. And so had we not been an hour late, you know, just so many like little moments that you look back, you're like,
yeah, we say, right, like God's always there. We just can't see until we look back.
100%.
And it's just like,
it's so cool to be able to look back and see the pieces that you kind of missed in the moment too. Like even the cops raiding the house, like that, just come on now. Like it's just, I can't, you can't make this stuff up. So I ended up staying, I ended up graduating the program. Things were good. I got really into fitness. I got certified as a personal trainer while I was working there. I was studying and took the test, and they have a program to help get you back into school and to get a job. So got my personal training certification, got back into City College, graduated a program called Transitions, which is for people that were previously incarcerated to get back into school. Started taking other classes, trying to knock out my general ed, was working at a restaurant, was working, teaching fitness, group fitness, private training. I was just loving life, man. Things were going good. Was off probation, you know. I moved into a house with one of my best friends who graduated the program with me. And I just started hanging out with normal people from the gym, good people, right? But they like to go down to the bars on the weekends. And I didn't have a problem with alcohol, right? And I had a problem with drugs. And I missed out on my 20s, and I deserve this. And so that's what I kept telling myself. And, you know, a drink on Thursday and Friday night turned into multiple nights a week. And then the cocaine starts coming out. And just, it seemed like it was 6 months from start to finish. I could be off, you know, who knows exactly, but it was a very short amount of time that I was shooting dope, living back in my car again. Lost everything. We moved out of the house. Oh, yeah, again. Oh, yeah, again. So this is, I graduated late 2018. I remember my 29th birthday, I was strung out by then, so even before then. And I move in with another coworker, my buddy that I graduated with. We had to move out of the house. I was using. Thank God I got away. We had to split up because he didn't deserve that. He's still sober to this day, going on 10 years, works in the hospital, like has a totally good career, 2 kids, but still my best friend to this day too. But I'm living in another house, like more like a party house at this restaurant I'm working at. Of course, I lost the personal training job. I mean, at this point, I was shooting dope and teaching fitness classes. It was bad. But, you know, luckily I got fired for missing work and showing up late, not for shooting dope in the bathroom. But, I mean, it was so bad. I have photos of these times. I'm like, I was sucked up, skinny and pale. And, like.
That's my coach.
Dude, it was bad. And I have tattoos, and I was working at this place that was very high end, so I had to wear long sleeves and cover my arms, luckily, you know, and for the tattoos, but cover the track marks as well. And you know, ended up losing everything and had to move out of that house, and it was on bad terms, and all kinds of other bad stuff happened. And during this time, this is all in Santa Barbara still, and I drove up to San Luis Obispo one night to pick up a bunch of drugs, and on my way back I was like, I'm going to Target, you know, and I'm all strung out on meth, and I had taken some Xanax, so it gives you a little bit of sticky fingers, right?
Yeah. And of course, some sleight of hand, some magic tricks are about to happen.
It's like the worst combo. Like you have so much confidence and like you black out at the same time. And I loaded up a backpack, I bought some stuff, and as I'm going out, they tried to stop me, and they grabbed the backpack, had my keys and my wallet in the back, and I'm fighting back and forth with them. Finally, they gave me my keys. I drive back to Santa Barbara, and I'm like, cool, I got away. You know, it was this big old ordeal. I think it was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock in the afternoon. It was still light out, whatever time of the year it was. And the next morning, my friend's mom's like, you need to call the, look on the police log. They had my face blasted on the Facebook page, and who is this guy type thing. So I called him up, put myself on calendar, thinking it's no big deal. Come to find out they're trying to give me robbery, because robbery's anything taken by force or fear. And so now my only argument is that my public defender was telling me my cell phone light was on my phone, and I had my phone in my hand. So my argument was that my hand wasn't closed, so I wasn't lunging at him with force. So that's what we were going back and forth. COVID's around this time. I think it hit right after. So that's pushing my court dates off. And this went on for 2 years. So I'm getting loaded. Things are getting worse. I'm homeless. I do have a car at this point, which is good. I'm not living in any house. I'm staying with a friend who's a total normal person, and I'm getting loaded, just being a weird tweaker in his house. And he's like, probably, what's going on.
Just watching you.
Yeah. And at first, of course, I was like, I'm going to be respectful, and I would leave to get high. But then I was like, this is not convenient, so I'm going to get high in your bathroom. And I remember one time I dropped a rig out of my pocket, and just all bad stuff. I look back on those some embarrassing times. But I was bouncing back and forth from his house up to my mom's house, staying in town. And I was at my mom's house one night, and I had money. I don't know why I did this, but I had a half shot of heroin that I didn't finish. There was a lot in there, and so there's all this blood in the rig. And I woke up in the middle of the night and was like, oh, that's convenient, and just did the rest of it. And then I fell back asleep, and I woke up, X amount of time later, and I'm just pins and needles, dripping sweat, and the worst pain of my life. And couldn't get out of bed because the fan was on, I remember, and it was like the most painful thing is the air would blow past me. That's how I remember it. And finally I was able to get myself out of bed, and I was like, I got to go, get something. I got to go to the hospital. There's something seriously wrong with me. I did end up falling back asleep and wake up feeling a little bit better. And I remember I went and got my blood cultures done, or they did my blood, sent me home, just assumed, I'm an addict trying to get whatever, think nothing's wrong with me. And I go back to my mom's house, and I wake up with like multiple voicemails from the hospital telling me I need to get back in here right away. I'm like, oh shit, this sounds bad. And I'm like, I might have to stay for a couple of days, so I need to get some dope first. So I went and drove to McDonald's, and I knew these voicemails are bad. They didn't tell me what was wrong on the phone. And looking back, I'm like, dude, I'm lucky to be here. So I sat in the McDonald's parking lot, got all my drugs, went back, find out my blood had gone septic. Then they put me in, they did some scans. They found endocarditis, which is like a serious heart infection. And they ended up keeping me for 72 days. I had...
How long?
72 days.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, it was like when your blood goes septic, it's not if. If you go into septic shock, you're dead.
Because what does that mean? What's happening in your body when your blood goes septic?
Basically, it's poison. For lack of a better description, your body's poison rejecting itself. Like, I don't, a doctor could explain it much better than I could, but...
72 days.
Oh, yeah. And around-the-clock antibiotics. So I was hooked up to a PICC line, so they put this, I think it was this arm.
What are you thinking at that time in those 72 days? Like, what's your mindset now? Are you like, what's going through your head?
Well, when I went in there, so this picture, that's when I was.
That's what that is?
Yeah. My mom took that. My mom's always been there for me. She's loved me unconditionally. And
shout out to the moms.
Shout out to the moms, man. But when I first went in, it was COVID, right? So the hospitals are overflow, so they put me in the pediatric unit.
Yeah.
And I'm just cussing out the nurses. I'm in so much pain. I can't get high because my blood's like, if I put a needle in my arm, it's just worse. And so for the first week, they hooked me up. They gave me morphine and Dilaudid, right? So I had an IV drip, but not enough to get high. Just enough to just enough for life not to completely suck, Yeah. And all these nurses, man, I need to go back and really make an amends to them. That's on my list. But they're used to having all these babies and stuff, and I'm over here just
acting like a baby.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Like, that is overgrown baby. I'm just being the worst piece of shit you could possibly be. And after about a week, I got up enough strength. I'm like, I'm going to go in the bathroom and get high. And I remember I did a shot, and I'm like, oh, no, that wasn't good. My body's still rejecting anything I put in it. It was the worst pain, brought everything back. I cleaned up, went back into bed. Finally, they moved me into another room. And this hospital had single rooms. It's Marion Medical Regional Center in Santa Maria. And I was on the 4th floor, and, you know, I'm like, I had a bunch of dope with me, you know, and all this time when I was recovering, I was sleeping and, you know, doing whatever, eating. And then finally I got well enough. I'm like, I'm going to start getting high. So I went from being somewhat normal to like, you know, coloring and shit, being all weird and not eating my food. Not to mention I'm hooked up to IV machine that tells all my vital signs. So it's like, I'm like, it was my snitch machine, dude.
Yeah.
It was like,
right.
Heart rate's all weird. Like, I mean, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
That, you know, and so they come in one day and they're like, we know you have drugs. And if you give them to us, we're not going to call the cops. And I had them hidden in the closet. And I ended up giving them the drugs. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn this thing around. And I remember during this time, my body was feeling much better, but I still had this pain in my back. And the best way to describe it was like someone was poking me with a little blade, like over and over. They did an MRI. They're like, he's just trying to get more drugs, blah, blah, blah. My mom's a nurse. No one was allowed to visit me because of COVID, but because she worked in a hospital, she had scrubs. She would just kind of walk in and visit me from time to time, and they wouldn't say much. And more than one occasion, she came in, I was sleeping, and I was just like twitching, and she's like, there's something seriously wrong with him. He's not faking it. So they did a second MRI with contrast, which, are you familiar with that? It's where they inject a dye into your body so they can see the MRI more clearly. And they found an abscess millimeters from my spinal cord that had it touched that would have paralyzed me. So they did emergency surgery the next morning. And I remember when I came out of that surgery, it was like a huge relief. Like, my back was sore because of the surgery, but the sharp pain was gone. It was just like, oh my God, thank you, Lord. Like, that was not fun. And I was like, I'm going to turn this around. I started eating healthier again, and I turned my hospital room into like a gym. You know, I found a walker, and I started doing dips on it. And like, I had a TRX, which is like a suspension trainer, hung it from the door. I was doing pull-ups from the shower curtain rod. I actually broke 2 of them. Then the doctor,
that's a strong rod.
The doctor actually brought me one from home, a pull-up bar. It was super cool. So, you know, I had a good attitude. I started changing everything. I'm like, you know, I'm going to change my life, just trying to be positive. And right before, this is like my 72nd day there, I was talking to this girl like on social media, and she had actually like brought me like a Jamba Juice or something while I was in there. And I was like, let's hang out. So I had her come pick me up, knowing in my head I was going to get caught because I was on an IV drip every 4 hours, and the IV lasted about an hour and a half. So there was very little gap in between when the nurses would come in, but I didn't care. You know, when we make that decision up in our head, this is what we're going to do. So I had her pick me up. We went and drank at her house. Of course, the hospital starts calling me. I come back really, really drunk, try to fight the security guards, pack up my bags. I pulled the PICC line out of my arm, which isn't actually painful. It just was like, you know, just one of those things that you do when you're not in your right state of mind. And I had driven myself to the hospital and went to, you know, I had a big old cart, a Keurig machine with coffee. Like, I had it all set up in there. There's a lot of shit I had to carry back to my car. And I start shooting dope right then and there. I'm like looking for orange caps. I mean, at this point, the way I was living out of my car before this, my center console looked like a Sharps container. There's orange caps everywhere. So it was not very hard to find something with some dope in it.
Even after even getting emergency surgery, all that, your mind still just...
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
I had a flat tire. I had been parked there for 2 months. And so I, you know, went on like this for another year. Just drove off and...
After all that,
a whole nother year. So still fighting this case.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, it's getting pushed back and back. And
why for you now, when you look back, like for someone that doesn't understand it, why do you think not even that was like the last straw? I think oh, he must have got sober right after that, right?
I'm hard-headed, man. Yeah. I've always been that way. I'm very persistent, and I'm very hard-headed. I have to do things my way, you know, which sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse, you know. When I want something, I'm going to figure out how to get it, though. I'll tell you, you know.
Yeah. I remember the second time I got interviewed on Soft White Underbelly, Mark was like, can you just tell the war stories? Nothing positive, just war stories. So I thought, okay, so I'll do a whole episode just on war stories. And I'm reading the comments, and people are like, he's lying. He's high right now. I'm a nurse. He's bipolar, borderline. He's totally a narcissist. Like, there's impossible. The human body can't handle that stuff. But as you know, like, people don't realize, I'm like, those are all like normal stories when we go into the rooms of Archer. The body can handle, you'd be surprised.
Well, I've seen people shoot up 8 balls at once. I've seen people shoot up grams of heroin. Like, I've always had a low tolerance. I was a cheap date. I was still people, but I've seen people do some things that would kill most people just because your tolerance gets built up.
And even our stories sound crazy. They might listen to your story like, he's lying. There's no way he had that surgery and then got out and then left the hospital. There's no way there's security's everywhere. He's a lie. You know, and it's just like, no,
I have no reason to make shit up.
Right. Like, no, this is like, that's called being an addict.
100%. You know.
So now you have that another year run.
Yeah.
Now is this your final year run?
Yeah.
So this is the final.
It's the final stretch right here. So things are. I mean, I'm fighting this case. I'm getting offered 2, 3, 5 years. They told me to take a deal of 16 months. I'm like, I'm not taking 16 months, you know. And then so the low, mid, and high term was 2, 3, and 5 years. My record, San Luis County is a small court system with 12 different courtrooms. Same judge I've seen, you know, over and over and over. They're not going to give me the low term. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to prison for at least 3 to 5 years if I don't get this together. But I didn't care. You know, I'd swindled some COVID money. So I had, you know, I blew through about, I blew about 40 grand. You know, I was going to the casino. Yeah. I remember that first time I got 15K. I was like, oh, this is pretty
Small
sweet.
business loan.
Yeah. And
I remember that.
So I'm running around with a lot of money. I bought a motorcycle, about 1,000cc RC51. I remember I had ridden one little motorcycle. I never had a license, only had my permit. So I went to Orchid, which is like 30 minutes south of where I was living. And this fucking rocket, you know, excuse my language, but this rocket of a motorcycle. A guy sold it to me. I hit 150, 160 miles an hour on the way home in jeans and t-shirt. You know, should have been dead. Whiskey throttled it the next day, almost completely wrecked it, and then got it impounded the following morning for going 70 and a 35. Within like maybe 16 hours, I don't know. Which was a blessing, right?
Yeah.
That was actually right before I went to the hospital, so I had to backtrack. Yeah. So I ended up going to the hospital after that bike. But anyway, so I get back and another, you know, I'm running around. Things are just slowly getting worse. The dope I was getting, I swear, was, I don't know if you're familiar with like Flocka or bath salts. Both of those. It was one of those. It looked like it. It didn't even look like meth anymore, but I didn't care. I was still shooting it up. I'm losing my freaking mind, man. I start hearing voices like constantly. It was like the best way I always tell people to describe it was like the TV was on in the next room over, but I couldn't quite make out the words. I'm living out of my car. I'm hearing all this shit. I'm thinking the cops are out to get me because of the, you know, the charges that I'm fighting and all kind. I mean, I could tell you story after story of different things that would take too long to explain that were going on.
The government's after me. There's people in the walls and cameras, and
I wasted so much money on gas because I couldn't sit on spot. Parking lot to parking lot to parking lot. No one, even the dope dealers and the drug addicts I was hanging around with, didn't want me around at this point.
Yeah.
So I got a Roxy. I was out of heroin. I was running low on money, probably like next to nothing left. And I went to Santa Maria in the dollar store parking lot, did a shot. I knew it wasn't exactly what it was. You know, it was powerful right when I started to push that plunger in, but I didn't care. I kept pushing it in. And I woke up X amount of time later with that needle still out of my arm, hanging out of my arm. And I was just like, woke up in disgust, man. I was like, dude, what am I? I'm like 30, 31 years old at this point. Like, you know, my original, you know, the original time I tried to get sober was 26, almost 27. So there's been a long gap of time, and I've experienced a little bit of sobriety, and I was like, just over it. You know, I was over it in that moment. And I believe that was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, because that willingness stayed with me all through the next day. I went to drug and alcohol services. They have me fill out paperwork. Are you sure you're qualified? I'm like, dude, you guys have like been hunting me down my whole life, and now I'm not on probation, and you're having me fill out paperwork to see if I qualify to go to detox. Like, craziness. But anyways, they found me a bed. Took them, I don't remember how long it was to find the first bed, but I was still living out of my car. And I was I remember I went to Walmart, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna sleep in my car tonight. I'm gonna get a few hours. We're gonna wake up early, I was like, I'm gonna stay up all night getting high, and I'm gonna drive first thing in the morning. I ended up passing out in a Walmart parking lot, and it was empty parking lot when I fell asleep. And I wake up, and the heater's on, the car's still running. I'm drenched in sweat. There's cars everywhere around me because now the parking lot's full because the store's open, and they had given away my bed because it was hours and hours later. They found another one. I ended up driving myself down there. It was in King City, which is like this tiny little agriculture town. It smells like cow shit, and it's just, you know, whatever, tiny little detox. And I went and knocked on the door, and I knocked real light, and no one answered. And I got back in my SUV, and mind you, I was, you know, getting high the whole way. One last issue. And I just did a lot of self-reflection right there before I fired the truck back up and took off. And I was like, I can't do this. And I drove all this way. So I went and knocked again and checked myself into detox. And I had no game plan. You know, I knew I could stay there for up to 90 days, and that was it. And, you know, I went through the withdrawals in this tiny little twin bed in this shitty little detox facility, and it was miserable and depressing. And luckily, right before I checked myself in, because they take your cell phone, I wrote one of those Hail Mary Facebook posts, right? Like about how I'm going to get clean and sober. And I'm still loaded when I wrote this. Looking, I have it screenshotted, but it's like very embarrassing, but you know, it is what it is. But luckily I wrote that, I gave him my cell phone. I think I was like 9 or 10 days in, because I ended up staying there for 11 days. I asked him to get a phone number out. I pulled that phone out, and of course, all the messages start showing up when you turn your phone back on. And someone saw that post. Someone I graduated with from the rescue mission, years prior, was like, "You always have a home here." And I packed up my bags and drove back to Santa Barbara, and got there on next to nothing with gas, no money. Got into a sober living, and I was like, "Cool, this is the next step of my journey. Just got to keep showing up from here." Got a job working for my buddy's moving company, because I have 2 felonies on my record, and it's hard to get a job. I did my last court date on Zoom in the kitchen of that sober living, and I stretched it as far as I could. I was going to trial readiness, so we were about to pick a jury, and I went to the last court date on Zoom before that, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm in sober living." And they're like, they let me stay. They're like, do a year there. We'll court you to 365 days. We'll reevaluate from there. I'm like, perfect. Another blessing from God. They could have easily said, "No, screw that. You're, come get out of there." They gave me another chance.
So they said you had to do a year in sober living?
Yeah. So I just checked myself into sober living. I'm like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm on, these weird Zoom court dates." Yeah. And I just so blessed, man. Like, I probably would I have won? Maybe, who knows? I don't know. Yeah. But picking a jury and having that's not fun. And so, stayed there for a year, got back, I applied. I remember I went to Gold's Gym, and, they hired me, and then they told me they couldn't because I was a felon and I had these on my record. And, I just kept showing up for myself as best I possibly could. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to really just better my life. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to do anything. If it's not recovery related and it's not me working, I'm going to be working on myself. Like, I'm like, what am I good at? What do I know? I know how to get in shape. I had fitness as my background. I knew about nutrition and all these other things. So I started really taking care of myself.
What do you think it was now this time that was like really helping you like stay sober one day at a time?
I think because I exhausted every possible option that I think I had. I tried it my way, every which way there was. I'm like, dude, there's nothing left. Yeah. Let's just give this up to God and really just do the right thing.
Yeah, you got sick and tired of being sick and tired, right?
It's miserable. People don't understand that, don't live that life. Like, it's a full-time job to stay out there, and it's hard. And somehow you make it work. So if you can take that same level of hustle and discipline and apply it to something positive in your life, dude, there's nothing you can't achieve.
There's a TED Talk where this guy, I want to say he's like a multi-millionaire, successful business owner. Yeah. And his whole story was how he applied the principles of AA in his job. And for some reason, he kept on getting promoted and promoted and promoted. And before you know it, he's like, now I'm running the company. And he's like, I'm literally just working my program at work. Right. Being honest, showing up, like all that, making it right. And he talks about the superpower of like, it's like the 12 steps and the addictive personality. When you live like that, like it's like the blueprint to success.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I take my recovery lessons, and I take all the lessons I learned from the rescue mission and apply them to my life today. And my life's been amazing because of it. Just be a good person, have a good attitude. Just keep that tight relationship with God. I know that nothing comes before that. I started putting my fitness above other things before, and thought just all the stupid things. I've exhausted every option, and I've fallen in love with this way of living that I live now. But anyway, just started. One of my roommate, he invited me to do a marathon, and I'm like, screw that, at first, and then I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I was never a runner. I was like into weights and things like that. I ended up training. The marathon was in Hawaii. It was the Honolulu Marathon. Oh, nice. And so it's like I think it's the 4th largest in the U.S. There's like 10,000 people. And I was like, cool, I get to go to Hawaii. I've never even really been on a plane. Nice. I've been on a plane like a couple times before that. But the marathon started super early in the morning. I thought it was 4, but I think it was 5 a.m. But anyway, I started getting up at like 3, 4 in the morning. I would always do my journaling, my devotional, and then I would go run. And I just found such a spiritual experience about running at 4 o'clock in the morning, like especially when the mileage start getting up there. And I'm like, dude, there's something to this, you know? And I went out there, ran my first marathon. And I started training like a year in advance. So there was a lot of morning runs that went down, and I didn't do as good as I thought I was going to or I wanted to, so I signed up and did another one. So basically I've just always been challenging myself to do things. I found that growth is uncomfortable, you know, and so if I want to grow as a person, I need to do things that put me outside my comfort zone, and started just doing things that I always felt like I wasn't good enough to do, you know.
And when does the entrepreneur side start kicking in now?
So during this time, I started working at another gym, nicer gym, doing in-person training. And around that time, I got introduced to a friend named Sean. And I hired him to teach me how to make a coaching business, you know, take my personal training online. I wasn't the person I am today at this time. This is, you know, early in sobriety still, and I just didn't have the confidence and the belief in myself to do it. So I ended up starting to help him build his business. And so I built, you know, slowly but surely over 3 years that I helped him build it. And it actually was, you know, pretty successful. Had a doctor on staff and was doing blood work and peptides and all these other things. And I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I've always kind of, even when I was a kid, like, you know, pushing the lawnmower around to mow lawns to make money to get a GoPed, right? Or something like I had that spirit in me. And my mom used to always tell me, you have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I didn't even know what that meant. And like I said, I'm very persistent. But I'm trying to think of how, I guess writing the book was the first kind of journey into being an entrepreneur on my own, which I came out, I started, you know, it's been over a year since I started writing it. But then most recently things kind of fell apart with me working with that old friend, no longer a friend. Business is cutthroat is what I was told. So
yeah, that's why sometimes business is weird, right? There's like people like, don't go into business with your friends because of that. Or even if it is your friend, like have contracts, have that. And it's like sometimes like, I don't want to do that. Like, it'd be cool, but business can get weird. People.
Yeah. It was like I went from having an income to having no income with 2 days notice. Yeah. And it was just like, whoa, I helped from the ground up.
Especially things like that.
I was like, damn, you know, but we won't even get to
that's a whole other story.
It's a whole because it's the biggest blessing in my life. I'm like, screw it, let's go. You know what I mean? Let's go all in on this thing because I know what I'm capable of. So I just started my own company 2 months ago, and it's been going very well for 2 months. Like, I'm very, very happy. All this happened right before my book came out, though. So I had just purchased a trip to New York, Baltimore, and Washington because I have a marketing and publishing team. And then, like, right before I leave, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have any money anymore. I don't have any money coming in. But all I could think of was let go and let God. That scripture just came to my, be still and know that I am God. Like, that's what came to my mind. I don't know why. And I just, with all the uncertainty, I had so much peace. And that is from nothing but working on myself every single day, you know? And my process I teach my clients is I tell anyone that's willing to listen, like, getting up early in the morning for me has been such an impactful part of my life, and not touching my cell phone. Getting up and giving myself at 30 minutes minimum to an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, depending on how much time I read my devotional. I journal my thoughts. I decide on who I want to be that day, how I'm going to handle adversity when it comes my way, if it comes this way, how can I give back today? All the little things, like, who does Matt want to show up as before I have a chance to let, because we all know once we open that cell phone, right, that text message, that email, the social media, it's a nonstop revolving door of scrolling and doing all this shit. And it's like, you got to give yourself a chance to decide how you're going to feel before the world has any input on that. And so I'm big on, you know, my daily habits, which that includes that morning routine. And again, going back to what I was saying about the rescue mission, I'm like, why was I so happy at that time other than the first time I was sober? Well, I didn't have a cell phone. We were doing morning devotionals every single morning. I was strengthening my relationship with God. So I'm like, let me do a lot of those things. Let me apply a lot of that stuff that I learned there and bring it into my life now. You know, obviously I can't not have a cell phone. It's just not going to be possible, but let's cut it out first thing in the morning. Let's make my bed right when I wake up and hit my knees and pray. Let's start saying how blessed I am and have 3 things I'm grateful for out loud before my feet hit the floor out of my bed. Like, and constantly refining this process and trying to get it just a little bit better each day. And then morning exercise has been huge for me. You know, I get up and move every single day. Lately, I've gotten into kickboxing, so sometimes I'll go into there, take a morning class, or I'll get into the gym and lift weights, or I'll go for a run, or whatever it may be. It's something. Sometimes it's even just stretching in my living room with push-ups, but it's something to get the blood flowing before I get my day started is huge.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think having a good morning routine. They say like the first hour of your day will dictate the rest of your day.
100%.
And there's so many stories of people with how the morning routine has changed their life. And you're right. It's like this phone that we have has the ability to dictate how you see yourself, your potential. I mean, everything. You have to be so careful. Because when we grew up, all we know is what's happening in my household, what's happening in front of me. And that's really it. Now it's like I know what's happening in this random town, 5,000 miles away. Yeah. And it's affecting me. And it's crazy. It's crazy that. And, social media is just a highlight reel. It's just what people want you to see. Yeah. And sometimes it's like that, when you base your life off of what you see, I'm like, that's not realistic. That is a half a second moment. Yeah. That maybe that person was super angry and said, hold on, let me do this real quick. And it goes back to being angry. But you go, man, look at them. They're so happy. Yeah. I wish I was them.
Yeah. 100%. Or you see like the 20-year-old kids driving the Ferraris and all this shit. And it's like, you can easily get caught up and compare yourself to someone else's life, and you start feeling less than. And that's why I think it's really important to have that strong identity in who you are. And for me, it's like, look, I'm a child of God. I'm made in his image, and my accomplishments or the amount of money or whatever it is are never going to fill that God-sized hole. Like I got to fill it with a relationship with God. You know what I mean? And so that's the most important thing in my life today.
So for you, like you said, you were building this business with your buddy for what, 3 years? Yeah. And they said just recently, 2 months ago, the situation happened.
About 3 months ago now.
Okay, about 3 months ago, and you had the book coming out during that time. And so now, what is the business that you're building for yourself now?
Coaching, mindset, fitness, nutrition. I'm faith-based. I'm big on just teaching people the habits that I've implemented into my own life that have helped me, right? That's really all I'm doing, whether that be an old version of myself or someone that's just struggling in one way or another. I have a lot of clients from different, walks of life. But I think the solution's all the same. Like fitness and nutrition should be the baseline of everyone's personal development. I think taking care of your body is an act of worship. It's like we were given these things, and I destroyed mine for so long, so now I'm really health conscious with the things I do.
Yeah, I always say that, like, there's nothing like being in shape and being healthy. And again, right, and it's not like you have to look like that, but there's a level of security and confidence that follow you when you do that. Yeah. And the reality is people treat you differently.
Dude, 100%.
As much as some people might want to not believe that, hey, I've known when I look a specific way and I go to, let's say, Jamba Juice, oh, hi, sir, how you doing? Here you go. Then I look another way. Oh, hi, sir, how's it go? Yeah, no, do you want some extra? That's just how it is. And also, when you're trying to be a person that wants to help people, I'm not going to listen to an overweight person try to give me advice. I'm sorry. 100%. Even if what you're saying is the right thing. Yeah. It's just, I just don't trust you. Yeah. And so when you take care of your body and stuff like that, right, it gives you more authority.
Yeah, it's like, how can you lead others if you can't even lead yourself, And to be honest with you, I look at people that are overweight the same as drug addicts. Both people are putting something in their body that's causing them harm at an uncontrollable level. You know what I mean? Like, tell me the difference. Food, drug, alcohol, pornography, gambling, like all these things. People,
worry, codependency. I mean, you see it everywhere. Everyone's addicted to something.
100%.
Just ours is very prevalent.
Yeah, mine doesn't have consequences today, or the consequences aren't negative. You know what I mean? Like, and so take it for what if people want to say I'm addicted to whatever I'm doing now, that's fine. Because that's the truth. As much as I did love the drugs and the alcohol, I love the chaotic lifestyle. It's kind of like entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? Like there's always a fire to put out, and there's always something. I don't want to sit still in one place for too long. I need a million things to do. My brain operates better like that. And so to find that and be able to make a living off doing something that requires me to live like that, like that's a blessing.
Yeah, I call it controlled chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I always tell people, like, we're such recovering addicts. A lot of times we need that chaos in our life. So find a controlled way to have it. Yeah. What does that look like? Maybe it's becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah. Maybe it's working in an environment that's always different. A lot of, things to solve and stuff like that. Because the only thing that's out to get us is ourselves. Yeah. And it's this thing right here, right? When you have too much downtime, it's a bad time. Yeah. Right? Idle time's the devil's playground, and we have to be so careful being in that place. Yeah. Because we get some really good ideas sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where like the gym has helped me a lot too. Like pushing myself, like exhaust the body, quiet the mind. You know what I mean? Getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning and running 5, 10 plus miles. Like some people don't understand why would you do that? That's weird. I'm like, because it's hard. It's challenging. If it challenges you, it changes you, right? And then you start to learn about the science, the neuroscience behind things. Like I didn't really know much about that when I started doing the things I was doing. And then I started learning more about that, how it creates new neural pathways. It's like literally rewiring your brain for success. And I have, 10 years or so or more of all these bad decisions with all these bad neural pathways in my brain. I need as much of that as I can get, And slowly over time, I have shifted completely, not just in my physical form, but how I approach the world. I'm very optimistic today. I don't really let too many things get to me and get me down. And there was a time, even in early sobriety, when I was about 2 years sober, I'd leave the gym and all of a sudden I would be like driving on the freeway. I'm like, I should just yank this wheel to the right. You know what I mean? Like never going to act on it, but just the fact that those negative thoughts would even creep into my head was like, I just kept telling myself, I'm like, dude, you did a lot of damage. You've got a lot of work to do. Just keep showing up with no expectation on when things are going to actually change for you. And, the best piece of advice I can give to someone is fall in love with the process. If you get too fixated on the goal, the six pack, the losing of the weight, the thing you want to achieve, you might quit and give up before the miracle happens, right? Before you're able to get there. But if you fall in love and recognize like, man, I just got up early and did something difficult, I should be proud of myself for that. The person I'm becoming in the process of whatever you're going to achieve, you start seeing it differently.
Yeah, I always tell people like the success that you seek, the path's always going to look different. So don't give up just because it doesn't look like it's happening. Yeah. It actually is happening. It's just going to look way different. Like I had, because I love that, right? If you're just focusing on the goal, like it's almost like you're pushing it away every day further and further. You're chasing this thing. It's like, I remember for me, it was like I'm a big dreamer, right? So when I got sober, I was like, oh, I'm going to be this cool, famous recovery speaker around the world. Yeah. And I remember I had all these ways of going about it, right? Okay, if I show up at this event, if I go here, if I'm there, like they're going to see me, it's going to happen. And I remember it just like versions of it were happening, but it's like, yeah, these are all good stuff, but I want this version of it, right? Yeah. And I remember it wasn't happening. And I had a mental breakdown at 6 year sobriety. Yeah. And I quit my career as a therapist, a counselor, and, all this stuff. And I moved to Asia and I went backpacking for 6 months. No way. And I'm just sitting there with God. I'm like, God, I thought I had the dream life. I did this big event for recovery. We had 2,000 people. I gave away 40,000 in gifts. I'm on podcasts, magazines, articles, and all this stuff, speaking at churches and colleges. And I'm miserable. I don't get it. And then when I got back from that trip, God was like, I don't care if you help one person or a million. I love you the same. Yeah. So stop trying to prove anything to me. Yeah. Slow down. Chill out. Sobriety is not just about you helping people get in recovery and saving the world. It's about doing what you want to do. What did little Fausto want to do? And I was like, well, I always like making funny videos. Well, be a YouTuber. You want to be, just do it. Who cares? Make it for you though. Don't make it to help someone. If it helps someone, cool, but do it for you. So when I got back, I had nothing at 6 years sobriety. And then within like 3 months, my friend's like, hey, can you speak at my fitness influencer events? And he was a client of mine when he was in treatment. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll donate my time out of love. And somebody that was there saw me speak and he wanted to connect with me. And I saw he was on Soft White Underbelly. And I've been trying to get on for 4 years. And I was like, I hate asking people for stuff, but hey, you think you could connect me with Mark? Yeah. Within a couple minutes, I'm in a group chat with Mark. Within a week, I'm on it. After that episode aired, the Washington State saw the video and they made me recovery speaker of the year. They flew me out, put me in a giant like 6-8 bedroom house for free, car rental they paid for. 2 weeks out there. I spoke at the prisons, the colleges, the rehabs, the community event, recovery day. They paid me a lot of money. I didn't even ask for money. Yeah. And I saw the check they gave me. And I remember I showed my wife. I'm like, dude, look what they do this for 30 minutes of my time. I'm like, that's crazy. And then because most people only go for the 30-minute event every year, I stood for 2 weeks because I thought that's what you do, right? I'm going to be of service. that they're like, we want you every year now.
No way.
So now instead of finding new people every year, it's me, and I'm bringing my team with me this time, my buddies. But that just shows you, like, I had no idea, like, that was the path to become the speaker. I thought I had to go to a Tony Robbins event and buy VIP passes, you know what I mean? And pay for his $20,000 coaching. And then I'm like, maybe one day he will make me a speaker.
Yeah.
So you're right. So you just never know.
That's awesome.
What the path is going to look like. You just got to, like you said, just show up and have that delusional faith, I call it. Delusional faith. Like, it has to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's like we have our plan, and then God's plan is like just always so much bigger, so much better. Like, if you would have told me, you know, when I first got sober and first knocked on that detox door, I would be sitting here with you. I probably wouldn't believe you, right? Like, and all the things that have happened along the journey that have been so amazing, and the setbacks in the university that has come along with it, because it hasn't been all perfect the entire time, right? There's been a lot of struggles, and there's been a lot of molding and shaping me into the person that I am today. And, you know, I know there's going to be continued struggles, but now I view them as different. I view them as a blessing, right? So the person I am 5 years from now is not going to be this person either. It's going to be a better version of myself. And it took me a while to realize that adversity is truly a blessing. But there's a Bible verse that I love. It's James 1:2, and it says, "Consider it pure joy whenever we face adversity of any kind, because the testing of our faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so we may be complete and mature and lacking nothing." So it's like, anytime, if you really truly believe that and things show up in your life, you're like, cool, I get to become a little bit stronger, a little bit more resilient. Why do you think we like movies like Rocky? You know what I mean? Like, no one wants to hear about someone that had everything handed to him and everything went perfect. Like, I'm like, cool, this is just one more page in my story, one more thing I get to help someone else with, because the best teacher in life is our own experience, right? So the more experience you got, the more helpful you can be.
And I always say, like, sometimes what we want in life, our character's not ready to sustain it. That's why God's like, hold on. Yeah. It's going to happen. I got some more molding, right? You're my clay, you're my palm. I'm still molding you. Yeah. I'm going to give you that thing. Just hold on, right? And it's, again, right, that's why I think reading scripture is so important for us believers, right? If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, like, scripture is so important because you find those little nuggets of wisdom that help you understand why you're going through what you're going through in that moment, right? It gives you a perception to be like, wait, okay, hold on. No, everything is okay. Look at this right here. It literally says what I'm feeling and going through right now. Yeah. Whoa, that's crazy. I didn't know that, you know, and it helps you just get through that situation, no matter how long it is, right? Sometimes the hard day is a minute, an hour, a day, a week. Sometimes it's a month, a couple months. Yeah. But it's like, if you
seasons, man.
Just get through it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, even, you know, today, I'm not a Bible scholar by any means. I struggle understanding so much, but I do know enough. And I think a lot of it, too, is like our own experiences in life, too, you know, which isn't good enough. That's not, you should be able to, you know, to explain why you have faith other than just the things I've seen. But that's a big part of it, I think, for people like us, right? When you come from a certain background, you've seen so many things, you're like, how could I not?
And I think that's why, I remember somebody was telling me that's a Christian. He goes, and he's not one of us, but he was like, man, he's like, I love seeing the recovery community at church. They're the only ones I see that go up to the front, get on their knees, and they're crying and they're screaming and worship. He's like, I don't see anyone else that I'm with. And it's like, well, yeah, because we've experienced so much pain. And the fact that this entity that we chose to believe in is the only thing that got us out of that pain, and all these good things are happening to us, that's what you see. We're so grateful. So I think, the way we choose to believe, to me, is more impactful and meaningful versus I just believe because I was told to believe growing up my whole life. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know
100%.
And so, so that's why I always say, like, and this is what I say. I go, Jesus, addicts are his favorite. You know? You know what I mean?
I mean, he used a lot of broken people. You know, he wasn't hanging out with the quote unquote perfect
with
ones.
The winners, right? Yeah. And so, and then like, what's kind of like the purpose of your book? Like, when someone reads your book, what is it that you want them to get out of it?
You know, I really just wanted to tell my story as open and real and as authentic as possible, to give hope for people that maybe have loved ones in recovery or that are still struggling, for people who are in recovery or still out there using, to know that you don't have to live that way anymore. And not only like just get sober, but not just survive, but thrive, right? Like, I think there's like not a lot of middle ground in recovery. It's either people get sober and kind of settle for something because they think that's all that they're ever capable of, or they realize that their addiction and the things they've overcome is their superpower, and they end up building super successful businesses, right? They either become entrepreneurs or you settle for something maybe less than your potential because, you know, So give hope, I guess, is the best way to say why I wrote that book. And you know what was one of the most unexpected blessings along this journey was the healing process. Writing it out, sitting at my computer over and over again, reliving all these stories, the amount of times I cried at my computer trying to get something to sound a certain way, or like trying to remember, because a lot of these things, you know, you push them down, you experienced them when you're in a very altered state of mind. And so to have to relive them, and there were so many times I would be writing and be like, oh crap, this happened too. And it was a healing journey for sure. It was huge. You know, a couple things I had, one thing in particular, I put together a little playlist of certain songs that just made it hit.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how music has that power, you know,
to make you feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would work out a lot too. I would like go do an intense cardio session, and then I would write something. I'm like, because you get that endorphins going. And it was fun. It was hard, man. There was like a month or two where I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not going to let people, you know, because I shared everything just like I shared on this podcast. I try to keep my most real and authentic self out there, because I think that's relatable, right? You're talking about social media being a highlight reel for people. Like, I have no problem sharing my wins, but I'm also going to share my struggles and my losses as well, to show you, because no one wants to see just the wins. That's not, you know, that's not real life. That's not relatable, and that's not inspiring to people. That's just kind of like, I want that. It makes me feel less than type of thing, you know?
Yeah, I always tell people, like, success is meant to be celebrated, but our suffering is what connects us.
Yeah,
right.
That's spot on.
It's the human condition. It's what really happens. That's why I think for people, at least what I've learned, because people always ask, dude, how do you like say all that stuff out loud? You know, because I was like molested as a kid, all this stuff. So people are always shocked that I say stuff, and I'm like, dude, the more I share it, the less it hurts.
Thank you.
And there's nothing as beautiful as somebody saying, thank you for sharing that. I've been through that. Can we talk? Yeah. To me, that's the coolest thing ever. And I tell people, like, I have the ability to do that, though. I understand there's certain jobs that I've seen. I've worked with people that are like, work at Chalk Hospital, or they work for certain companies, and they're like, I can't say it out loud, though, right? My job will actually let me go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that sucks. I would never want to, at least for me, I would never want to work a job where I have to hold that. So some of us are lucky when we get in recovery that we start building our brand almost off of that vulnerability.
100%.
Because then it's like, it's all good. Like, I built it off of that. So that's why I'm able to just live like that. And so we don't have to like live in this secret, because when you hold back that pain, it's like you only hurt yourself to heal a little more. And some people, holding back that pain is what slowly kills you.
Yeah.
I know many people that take it to their grave. They're like, I can never say it. And you see them spiraling.
That's what's, you know, you said something there, spot on. The more you talk about it, the less it has power. You know, I know the more that I've gone on podcasts and writing this book and just talking with people, I'm like, oh, it doesn't hurt as bad anymore. It's not as hard to say. Like, in the beginning, it's like, I can't say these words. I don't want to. It's obviously awkward. And today I can speak on it openly and honestly, you know, and it's just, it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing to be able to be your open and honest and real self, because the truth is everyone's messed up a little bit to some degree. You know, just most people aren't willing to talk about it. Most people aren't willing to share that side of them. And it takes strength. It takes courage to be able to speak about the things that you're talking about, the things I'm speaking about, the things that, you know, that the darkest parts of our past.
I always say, like, the worst thing people can do is act like they have no problems. Because you make everybody else feel crazy. Yeah. I remember I learned that with my therapist. And I remember I used to feel like that in recovery with some people. They have like let's say someone has 10, 15 years. I'm like, man, dude, like, that's awesome. Like, do you ever have like hard days with like the recovery? Never. Nope. The day I got sober, never came back. No problem, no nothing. That's it. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I must be doing something wrong.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? How's that possible?
Yeah.
And then, but I'm like, wait, they're lying. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Just, life should always have their issues. And I appreciate people that are very vulnerable like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've been married 20 years, and me and my wife had a fight last week. You know, we're always, you know, I tend to, you know, get a little selfish at times and this and that. I'm like, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Because then I don't beat myself up so much when I feel like I'm not doing something perfect. Yeah. And stuff like that. So yeah, Matt. So at this part, what we do is we do speed questions with everybody.
Okay. Oh, right? Shit. Speed questions?
Answer like a minute or less.
Okay.
And again, too, thank you for, you know, just being here and stuff like that.
Thank you for having me.
We're definitely going to hang out more for sure. We're going to get lunch after this.
Let's do it.
What are 3 books that you'd recommend to somebody that can completely change their life?
Outwitting the Devil. And these are at no order, just popping off. Outwitting the Devil is one of my favorites.
Did you do the audio of it too?
I did. I did the audio first. Yeah. It was pretty trippy, and then I read it. Okay, give me it. How fast do I have to say this?
You don't have to say it too fast.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to think of Outwitting the Devil. The Art of Learning. Have you read that? It's a great book. I'll probably have to, later down the road when we're getting lunch, I'll think of a better one. But I'll say The Gap in the Gain.
What's that one about?
It's about basically how a lot of people with entrepreneurship struggle. We're always chasing that next goal, that next thing. And it's teaching you to continue to strive for that next goal, but also looking back and being proud of yourself and recognizing, because if you're always pushing the goalpost down, you're never going to be fulfilled, right? And then going back to what we were talking about as well, is like not putting our self-worth in accomplishments as well is very important. And honestly, I probably think of one later that I like more, but that
is a good one though. I think anyone that's an entrepreneur.
You know what? Let me take that back.
Yeah.
David Goggins Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
That was my first dive into personal development. So my mom brought me that book when I was in the hospital. And I read it, and then
so you already had the knowledge of that book when you started running.
Yeah, exactly. And then I read it again more recently, a second time, and it's just like, dude, you have no excuses.
That book, I remember when I heard about him, because I got into ultra running my first year of sobriety. Same thing, right? I threw away my TV. I went vegan because Rich Roll, and meditating because Jay Shetty, and you know what I mean. And I got into like Jim Rohn and Les Brown and all these people. And I remember. I heard about him, right? We heard about, because I got sober in 2017. Oh, wow. So Goggins came out, that interview, I forgot who it was with. And then the book came out. Yeah. And I remember I read the book, and it's even more mind blowing. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. He failed 5 times doing, oh, wait, hold it. Whoa. Dude, it's crazy. He's a normal person. Yeah. I was thinking everything he did was first try. Like, he's a normal person. And I'm like,
I don't even think normal. I think he's like struggled hard with, like, he's like couldn't read. And stuff.
So like he's a superhuman in the sense of like he's showing you that you can do anything. Like, he literally did this thing, didn't work, and he kept on doing it until he did it. This guy's, I'm like, oh my gosh. And he hears, that book was, that book was insane.
There's a book I'm reading. Actually, I just finished it yesterday, the day before, The Genius in All of Us. So
I have that book, yeah.
It's amazing. Basically talks about how genetics are bullshit and epigenetics and your environment so much more crucial and all those things. So basically, like Goggins, was he amazing? Yeah, but also look at his work ethic, So anyway.
That guy's insane.
Yeah, he's insane.
What was one single mindset shift that completely changed your life?
There's been a lot, but I would say figuring out that I didn't have to have it all figured out. You know what I mean? Because especially when I went to checking myself in detox, I had no plan. You know what I mean? I didn't know. And then slowly but surely, you just realize that things start working out. God's not going to show you the whole path, right? It's like driving at night. You can see X amount of feet in front of you with those headlights. However you want to view it, it's like, cool. Figuring out that I don't have to have it all figured out. There we go. You know? And that's just one of many. There's been so many things.
That's a good one, though. I think we can get addicted to wanting to understand everything and have it all figured out, and it's like that's not how it works. Yeah. That's why I always say have faith that everything's going to work out in your favor. Just keep on showing up. It's like a GPS. God will always get you back on track, right? So
back of my shirt says faith over fear, and I don't think faith over fear means absence of fear. I think it's human nature and very understandable and acceptable to have a little bit of fear. But it's having so much faith and trust in God that, like, I don't care how I'm feeling, I don't care what this thing's telling me, I'm going to lean into that faith. So.
Yeah, I remember there was a Marine, I think it was, or he was saying he's like, I would never trust someone on my team to guide me if they said they had no fear. Yeah. And I was blown away by that. I was like, why? And he goes, because that means he's going to make a dumbass decision.
Yeah. That's smart.
And so you're right. Yeah. It's not about the absence of fear. It's about having the courage to walk through it. Yeah. Even when feeling that fear. Yeah. Because even the Bible never says you can't feel things. It says don't be things. Yeah. And that's the difference. Being is, I am stupid. Yeah. Or I am depressed. It's like, no, I feel depressed, but it's not that I am depressed. Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? I am not stupid. I made a stupid decision. Yeah. 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 What is the worst piece of advice someone's ever given you?
Worst piece of advice anyone has ever
I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, man. Worst piece of advice anyone has ever given me. Damn it. These speed questions are tough. I honestly can't even think of one right now.
So, like, for me, I always, like, my example for mine was, you need to kind of tone down who you are.
Okay.
I was told that my whole life because I was a little too much. Yeah. I was excited. I'm extroverted. I'm goofy. I'm like, I love all things and people and creativity and making funny videos. And I was just that person, right? And I remember people would always tell me that. So I thought like, oh, they're manlier than me. So I probably need to kind of calm down. And in recovery, I learned, people are like, bro, you got to be more you. They're like, you are what's special. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the way you could come into a room and how you are, like, don't stop being you.
I love that. You know what? And thank you. That was given to me as well. Mm-hmm. Except when I was earlier in sobriety and I started sharing pictures like in the hospital and sharing a little bit about my story, someone who's very close to me, won't say who, but they reached out and they were just like, hey, maybe you shouldn't post all that stuff. People are going to judge you. And I just always felt like, this is what I got to make sense of a lot of these things. And this is what God put on my heart. This is how I feel. It's my intuition, whatever you want to call it. I felt it was the right thing to do. And now that same person's seen, how things have steadily progressed and, building a career and all these things. And they're like, wow, I'm very proud of you. You're just nothing but good things to say. So sometimes those closest to you have your best interest, but they don't always have the best advice.
Yeah, somebody said a lot of people will say, like creatives, especially like in the creative space of being an entrepreneur, they're like you can't always listen to everybody. Yeah. Even people's good advice is not meant for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that's what allows us to really do things. So it's like being very wary of that, huh? Like, hey, I know that person loves you. That's a great advice, but ask yourself, is that really what you want to listen to?
Yeah, and if they don't have what you want, too, you know what I mean.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's like I want to look at people that have the desired outcome that I want, and I'm going to figure out how they got it. Mm-hmm. And even after that, at the end of the day, you got to ultimately do what you feel is best for you.
Yeah. Because I always tell me there's so many ways, there's so many paths to get to a place.
Yeah.
You got to remember that, right? It's kind of like, what is it? Like I always tell people, okay, this is the story I always use. You have the person that pays $10,000 to get VIP bottle service at the club, or you have the person that gets invited to VIP bottle service by somebody to the club. Yeah. Which one do you want to be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, there's so many ways to get to that place. So just because they got it, they're saying this is the way. Just know there is another way.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
And then for my last question for you is, what would you want to say to the addict that's still suffering today? They're just like, hey, they're like, all right, cool story, Matthew, but my addiction's worse than yours. Yeah. And I have worse trauma than you, and mine's different than yours. I've tried everything and nothing works. Yeah. What would you want to tell them?
I would say that there's a few things. One of which, I guess, when the pain of remaining the same is the greater than the pain of change, then change is finally possible, right? And wherever, rock bottom is wherever we decide to stop digging. I know I'm hard-headed and I had to get to some pretty low places for that willingness to change to happen in my own life. Mm-hmm. I know other people in recovery who, didn't have to experience nearly as bad of things. And I know other people that are still out there digging their holes, right? So ultimately you have to come to that conclusion of where, you want to stop is at. But if you're still breathing, there's still a chance.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And then where can people reach you?
I'm on Instagram, Matt Fleming Official. Facebook, same thing. TikTok, same thing. I have a website. It's called Redeemed Strength Official. Redeemed Strength is my coaching program. And then I'm not giving out my cell phone, so. But the website has my email and ways to contact me. So social media is probably the easiest. But
yeah, we'll put all the links in the description.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say again, thank you for driving out here, making that drive to come out here, to hang out with us and to share with us and to just be another voice of recovery and hope.
Yeah.
And to let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially nowadays with how widespread addiction is. Like when I really started being open and honest and sharing my story, like it was scary, right? It's scary to do those things, especially because in the beginning, I wasn't being as open and honest, but I was still working in a gym training clients. And I would like post stuff and I'm like, shit, what do these people think about me? But I don't want to say you wouldn't believe because I know you've experienced it too, but the amount of people that will reach out to you and be like, hey, I lost my son, or hey, I have a loved one that's struggling, or hey, I struggled myself, or whatever it may be, the amount of positivity you receive of encouragement from people that relate and resonate with your story far outweighs the little bit of negativity that you end up getting or you don't hear about. But I'm sure people are always going to have their opinions, but it's impossible to be a life-changing presence to some without being a complete joke to others. And if that's the price of impact, I'll pay that price every day of the week. You know what I mean? It has been hard. Of course, there's been things that I go through in my head about what certain people might think about me. I'm sure I've experienced things that were going in a, without giving too much, but going in a certain direction, and then that person finds out a little bit more about you, and then it doesn't go in that direction anymore. And it's like, hey, I signed up for this. I knew what I was doing from the beginning, and I just feel it's the right thing to do.
Amen to that. Yeah, there's always going to be haters.
Always.
If everybody likes you, you're not being yourself.
You're not doing anything right. Like, you know, and that was me when I was younger too. Like, as much as I projected that hate, I also wanted, I wanted you to like me. I wanted to be the guy that got along with everyone. And now I realize, like, I'm going to be the most real, authentic version of Matt Fleming that there is. And in the process of doing that, I'm going to bring in all the right people, and I'm going to push away all the ones that aren't meant to be in my life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go from, we want everyone to like us, to now I'm okay with everybody hating me if they have to. And that's a beautiful place to be.
It's the most beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Do you like being alone now? Like having your alone time?
I do like my alone time now more than ever. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've never lived alone until 3 months ago. I finally was able to get my own place. Right. I got myself like of course I spurged, because again I grew up broke, so I bought myself a 3-bedroom for myself, and got DJ booth studios in there. Like, I'm blessed right now. Yeah. And I told my wife, I was like, look, let me live alone before we move in together. I know that sounds really weird. Because we can now we can move in together. I was like, but I don't want to regret it. I feel like there's something I need to learn about myself that can only happen with me allowing myself to truly be alone. Yeah. And I've learned, man, sometimes it's hard to get me out the house now. You know what I mean? Like, I love that time to just be with me. And I'm funny. I'm like, okay, I got my soda waters with protein in it. I'm gonna drink 4 of those a day. It's 100 grams. I got my Okios Greek yogurt. Drink 2 of those. I got my steak. I got protein ice cream and eat that. What else? Peptides. Supplements. I'm gonna create some content. Yeah. I'm gonna get a Jamba Juice with double scoop protein. And it's just fun. Like, that excites me at home. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's it says a lot about a person and where they're at in their recovery journey. Is because, like, looking back, I'm so glad I was at that sober living. I needed an option of 20 different people to hang out with when I had whatever downtime it was. Like, I needed to be around people. And then I remember when I moved out and I've lived on my own since then. After my first year, I got an apartment at literally 364 days. I signed the lease to my apartment, and I've been living on my own ever since. And I'm like, I really value my alone time now. And like, it hit me one day. I'm like, dude, that's really, really special. You know, the fact that I like to be around certain people. I'm very careful about who I spend my time with these days. And I just as much enjoy it, if not more, being by myself a lot of the time. And it's great.
It's funny, right? Because you get to a point where I'd rather have 2 friends than 1,000 friends. Yeah. Less is more. Keep my circle small. One of the coolest things, because I was a people pleaser. Yeah. One of the coolest things I heard someone say is, hey, sometimes I got to tell people, I just don't have the time to make new friends. Yes. Sometimes I don't want to. I just don't have the time. And I'm like, whoa.
Spot on. Because look, to really have a real relationship with anyone, it takes time. It takes time. I don't have time to have 50 real friends or even 20 real friends. Right? Like, I have time to have a couple real friends that, you know, that relationship actually means something to me, and it means something to them as well, and vice versa. Like, you know, we both give something. We both bring value to it. And so, yeah.
I love that.
Life's beautiful today, man. I wouldn't trade my life for anything.
I love that. Well, again, thank you for being on this show, and thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for being you as well. I'm glad we got connected.
Amen.
Let's go.